folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're going to be making my granny's peach cobbler. Now this recipe is well over 100 years old. I can remember my granny and my aunt and my mom making it when I was a little kid. It's probably nearly as old as peaches. It's not a real complicated recipe, but there are some steps in this that aren't in any other cobbler video I've done, because with a peach cobbler, it's kind of all about the juice. And you want your crust or your topping just a little bit crispy, but you still want that topping to have the flavor of that juice in it. So I'm going to show you the tips, the tricks, the secrets to making the perfect peach cobbler. Now we've got everything we need here. I think my pan is like an 8 by 11. That's just what all my glass casserole dishes are. You can use anything from this size. Even a 9 by 9 pan would probably work. You can use up to about an 11 by 13 with this recipe. You don't really want to spread it out much thinner than that. I have a stick of butter in here, which is a ½ a cup. You need 4 cups of peaches. Now you can use any peaches for this. I usually use frozen, and that's normally what they use because peaches have a very short season, and they would get the peaches and they would freeze them when they were in season, and then they would pull them out all year and make peach cobblers out of them. Like I said, I usually use frozen peaches. You can use canned peaches for this, but it's not as good with canned, and you can certainly use fresh peaches, and they did use fresh peaches when they were in season. But I have 4 cups of frozen peaches here. You need some sugar, and you're going to need it divided into 2 parts. Part of it's going in our peaches, and part of it will go in our topping. You can use anywhere from 2 cups to 1 in this recipe, but you're going to divide it in half. And what I have here is about 1.5 cups. I've got 3/4 of a cup here and 3/4 of a cup here. Half of it's going in my peaches, and I've got a tablespoon of lemon juice that's going in my peaches. Now that lemon juice does a couple of things in this recipe. It will keep your peaches that bright, pretty yellow color, and it also accents the flavor in the peaches. It's not going to make your cobbler taste like lemon. You're not using that much. It's just going to help peaches a little bit. I have 1 cup of milk and 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Now if you have self-rising flour, that's fine, but if you're using all-purpose, you want 1 tablespoon of baking powder and about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I've got my other 3/4 of a cup of sugar. That's going to be my topping. Now what we want to do is we want to dump our peaches in a pot, and we're going to put half of that sugar, and I'm using, like I said, about 3/4 of a cup. You can cut that down to 1/2 a cup, or you can put a whole cup in it if you like. You can adjust it even before you try your first peach cobbler. If you like stuff really sweet, put a little more sugar in it. If you don't want it as sweet, if you're cutting back, or you just don't like your desserts as sweet, go ahead and cut it back a little bit. Like Brett and I, especially with fruit desserts, I like mine a little more natural, where he likes his a whole lot sweeter. So I kind of do a middle of the road recipe, and it's good for both of us. We both enjoy it. It's sweet enough for him, but it's not too sweet for me. Now we're going to take this over to the stove, and you want to bring this to a boil. And you're going to put your stick of butter in your pan, and you're going to put it in your oven. Now if your oven is cold and you haven't preheated it yet, turn it on 375, put this in it, and start your peaches, and your butter will be hot at about the same time your peaches are boiling. My oven is already preheated, so I'm going to wait just a minute before I put my butter in the oven. Now you do want to keep an eye on your butter once you put it in the oven. You want it really hot. You want it to the point that it's sizzling, but you do not want to burn it. So I'm going to turn my peaches on medium, and like I said, my oven's already preheated, so I'm going to wait just a minute before I put this pan in the oven. You're going to have to keep an eye on your peaches too, and you're going to have to stir them a little bit from time to time, but you don't have to go crazy and stand here and stir them constantly like we do with a lot of recipes. So while our peaches are starting to cook, we're going to dump the ingredients for our topping in the bowl. That's my cup of flour, and if it's all-purpose, remember to do the baking powder and the salt. And like I said, self-rising is fine in this recipe. And your sugar, you can adjust that for however you like it. If you want a little more, put a little more. I'm using the 3/4 of a cup. Now, I'm not going to add my milk to this until my peaches are cooked and my butter is hot. Because as soon as you add the milk, you're going to activate the baking powder and it's going to start rising. And we don't want it to get all foamy before we get the peaches done. You do want to make sure you get it mixed up pretty well while it's dry, because you want that sugar even in there, and you want the baking powder even, of course, and the salt. Okay, we'll go ahead and take our milk and the rest of our topping ingredients over to the stove so we've got them ready when the rest of the ingredients get done. Okay, my peaches are starting to at least thaw out, so I'm going to go ahead and put my butter in the oven. It does take just a minute to get this butter hot enough, so I don't want to wait until my peaches are completely ready. After just a few minutes in the pan over the heat, you can start to see the juice forming in the pot, and that's the sugar bringing it out. Now, I know there are a lot of dump cobbler recipes out there, but you really don't want to skip this step, because heating up the peaches and bringing that juice out, it's really going to make the difference in how this cobbler comes out. The type of crust it has on it, it makes it unique from other cobblers. I decided to make this video now because Monday is Memorial Day here in the United States, and I know we have viewers all over the world, and you have similar holidays where you honor your fallen soldiers, your veterans who have protected your way of life and your freedom. And that's what Memorial Day is here in this country, even though I think the true meaning of Memorial Day is not known by many people. Before Memorial Day was Memorial Day, it was Decoration Day, and the name Memorial Day is fairly new. It came about in the late 60s, and it was declared a national holiday in the early 70s. When I grew up, we still celebrated Decoration Day. I never even heard of Memorial Day until long after I became an adult. And this is the kind of thing that my grandmother and my aunts, they would make, and they would take it to the church on Decoration Day, because the entire community would come together on Decoration Day, and they would have dinner at the church, and they would clean the cemetery, and they would decorate all the graves. Even people who did not have family at the church anymore, maybe all their family had passed away or moved away, every single grave in the cemetery was cleaned and decorated on Decoration Day. Like I said, even if there wasn't a direct relative at the church to do that. And that's still something that we do in this country. There are a lot of veteran cemeteries around the country that do not have family members who live immediately nearby them. And other members from the community will go decorate those graves, clean them, and take care of them as a way of honoring the sacrifice that those veterans made for our freedom. So if you're one of those young people who weren't sure what we're celebrating on Monday and why everything is closed, that's why. We are celebrating the sacrifice of soldiers who have paid the ultimate price for our freedom here in this country. And Our freedom here in this country is seriously under attack. Our founding fathers believed that we had certain God-given rights, and that's what this country was established on. And they believed that the most important among those rights were our freedom of religion and our freedom of speech. They also believed that a country's greatness or society's greatness was based on individual initiative. Our drive to be great. And our drive to be great is only possible by our freedom. So a society is only as great as its individual freedoms. The more freedom we have, the more ability we have to achieve whatever purpose God created us for. And I don't think God created any of us to be mediocre. I don't think God created any of us not to matter. Our efforts should make a difference in the world that we live in. Now, it may not be on a grand scale. It may only be to the people in your life. But whatever you do every day, your existence should make a difference in the world to somebody. And because we live in a country where we are free to practice our religion in whatever way we choose, where we are free to speak and share our beliefs, we certainly have the ability to be great and to make a difference. And if so many people were willing to die to protect that freedom, we should be willing to stand up to protect it when it is being oppressed. We have that right here. It is guaranteed to us by our Constitution. It was guaranteed by our forefathers. They laid it down so that nobody could take it away from us here. And we have to defend that. It's up to all of us. And we're only as free as what we fight for. If you give up your rights, if you give in to political correctness, if you give in to coexistence, you can never be free. So honor those veterans who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, not only by maybe going out and cleaning some graves and putting some flags out and putting some flowers out, but honor them by the way you live your life, and honor God by the way you live your life. He created you to be great. Be great. And He created you to be free. So be free. Because you have that ability in this country at least. And I know there are other countries where there is democracy and where there is freedom. Exercise your rights. Okay, our peaches are boiling, and I'm pretty sure our butter is hot. Yep, it is. So, all we have to do now, and this recipe is really easy to mix up. It shouldn't be a struggle at any point, but you can see how much juice is in these peaches, and it's nice and clear. That's what you want. Okay, all we're going to do is pour our milk into our flour and sugar and baking powder here. And we want to stir this up. Now this is going to be about the consistency of pancake batter. It may even be a little thinner than pancake batter, but it's pretty close to a pancake batter. You do want to heat your butter until you get it nice and foamy like that. That way you know it's hot. But like I said, keep an eye on it because you don't want it to go until it burns. I'm going to go ahead and cut my peaches off. They're definitely hot enough. Okay, I've still got a few little lumps in this. You can see them in there, but that's fine. That won't hurt anything at all. You don't have to continue to stir it until all those lumps are out. They'll bust up. You're just going to kind of pour this batter around in your butter. And you can see it starting to rise up there already. That's because your butter's hot and it's really activated your baking powder. And then these peaches are also going to make it puff up even more because they are hot. And what that's going to do is that's going to make your topping crunchy. Now you want to kind of pour your peach juice around in here a little bit. And you want to make sure you spread your peaches out in this a little bit. You don't want to get them all in a big lump in the middle. So just kind of spread them around over your pan as you dump them in there. Okay, you can see how it's all foamy there, and our batter is already starting to really rise up, and it's even cooking a little bit around the edges already. That's because everything was so hot, and that's what you want. And we're going to put this in the oven for 45 minutes on 375. It should be golden brown and crunchy on top. You don't want mushy on top, but underneath there, it's going to have that peach juice still, and all of this topping, even this crunchy stuff up on top, is going to have the peach flavor in it because we cooked the peaches first and got the juice all in there. If you're planning to get together this Memorial Day, maybe even a family reunion, because a lot of families do have family reunions this weekend, and you're going to have dinner, give this peach cobbler a try. And certainly save the recipe when peaches are in season. Try this with fresh peaches. It is absolutely delicious. You can serve this just like this, or you can put a big scoop of vanilla ice cream on it. It's really good like that. And you can serve it either hot or cold. It's good either way. You do want to let it cool a little bit. You don't want to scoop it out quite this hot. But it's good warm, it's good cold, it's good all by itself. It's good with ice cream. And here's another little tip. Something I do a lot of times, especially when fruit is in season and I have a lot of it, is I will actually double my fruit in a cobbler recipe. Sometimes with apple cobbler, we have a lot of apple trees, and I'll go out and I have a big 11 by 15 pan, I think. I'll use the same amount of ingredients for my topping, and I'll fill the whole pan full of apples. So I have a lot more fruit and a lot less bread. It's still delicious. I still have enough topping that it tastes like a cobbler, but it's much, much healthier. And when fruit's in season and in abundance, and you can get it either if you've got trees and you're picking it, or you can get it cheap because you're close to an orchard. Even the grocery stores have sales, and it makes it much more affordable and easy to get. Thank you for joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen. Don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. And until next time, remember to put God first.